While it's on my mind, I really want to get a Christmas card picture. In May? Yeah, isn't that cutting it kind of close? We're talking Newhart. Hit it. It was 1982. The Canada Act was signed. Plaid pants and action suits were all the rage. Survivor released Eye of the Tiger, and Bob Newhart was back on TV playing a Vermont innkeeper. I'm your host, Jerry D, with another episode of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, and fads. If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, we got it covered. Now, joining me is a Totally Rad Christmas All-Star and Ratty winner. In fact, he is the rattiest of all Ratty winners. You'll know him as the host of the Illin Christmas Clatter podcast. It's Todd Killian. Todd, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. I should drop all my time Ratty winner, but man, it's getting to be too much.
That's right. Yeah. You're gonna have to start just saying like, 12 time, and that's it.
Yeah.
Times 12 or
Yeah.
I don't even remember how many.
I can't do. Yeah, it's 12. It's 12
Okay,
times. Yeah. And I don't want to say here, that take, a good 30 seconds of this episode. And we got Newhart to talk about.
I know oh man, this is good. I like this one.
Oh gosh, Jerry, before we get too far,
okay.
After I watched this episode, I said, if Newhart ever streams anywhere, me and Jerry starting a Newhart watch podcast.
I'm in. Let's do it. It's so fun.
It is. And we'll just go through all 12 seasons, 14 seasons, whatever it is.
It's something ridiculous. Yeah.
And just watch them in order and yak about them because it's so good. It is stinking good.
It really is. This one, I was cracking up. I watched it with my daughter, and she afterwards was like, "Can we watch another?" It's like, I wish we could. I just don't have time, but I really do wish we could.
Yeah, everything was so tight and succinct, and there didn't seem like there was a wasted scene or moment or dialogue or anything.
Well, and it's such like a sneaky like backdoor Christmas episode.
Yeah.
It's like someone just had an idea, like, you know what? I want to do another Christmas episode. Well, it's May. Well, so what? I'll make it work. And he did.
This one I'm gonna have to watch again because I think there's some parallels in the story that I might have missed the first couple times. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
I understand. But before we go too far into it, I want to do a segment I like to call Hit Me with the Toaster. So this is where you hit me with the first answer you can think of. Okay. And because you were part of my 80s Christmas favorites episode, I feel like the audience already kind of knows your Christmas favorites. So I thought I'd change it up this time. So if you could replace a character from Newhart with a Muppet, who would it be?
Oh man. Like I was just saying, I love Newhart so much. I don't want to change anything about it. So what I would do is I'd replace Dick with Kermit the Frog because they're basically the same person.
Yes. I could see Kermit making a lot of the choices and faces that Dick makes. Yeah.
So that way I keep Newhart fully intact the way I love it,
See, I understand. I think I would have done Miss Piggy with Stephanie.
That's kind of the same thing too. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man. Okay, that's good. What about so who would win, or who do you think would win in a battle between Ralphie and Kevin McAllister?
What's the rules of the fight?
Anything you want.
Because if Kevin has time to plan, he's going to win. But if a spur of the moment, I think it'd be Ralphie because Buzz and Farkas are basically the same person. Kevin couldn't handle Buzz.
That's true.
Ralphie did handle Farkas.
Yes. Yeah.
So if Kevin has time, they both got BB guns, so
Okay.
that cancels each other out.
Right.
If Kevin has, see, now there was a podcast, still there's a podcast called Weekly Planet, and they did a breakdown of Kevin McAllister versus the Predator, and and they had Kevin McAllister winning, and
I see
so
it. I get it. Yeah.
so if that influences me, then I'm going Kevin. I'm going to go Kevin because of the traps, and I have a feeling he would have time to plan. If they got in a fight, he would run away to his house, and he wouldn't sit there and try to fight him toe to toe in the street.
Yeah.
And I don't think Ralphie would see it coming. And plus, too, as soon as Kevin hits him with a paint can and his glasses break, he can't see a thing.
That's it. Yep.
Done.
So you're saying Kevin McAllister's Batman. If he has time to plan, that's like the big argument for Batman winning every time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give him that.
Okay. Now here's a fun one. What ghost given the choice between Michael Knight, David Addison, and Thomas Magnum, which ghost of Christmas do you think each one would play?
Oh, that's hard because I instantly want to go to like Christmas Future first because he seems to be so much different than the other two.
Right.
But all those characters are kind of the same. There's not really a stoic one or a quiet one in there.
Right.
I would go David as past because I think David would be more quick-witted and harsher.
Okay.
On the past. I would go Magnum as present because he's more fun-loving for present. And I would actually go Kit as Christmas Future because
right.
There's a few episodes where he had to scare people and he did it pretty well. So
that's pretty close. Me, and I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's all right.
I was thinking I would do Thomas Magnum as past just because of his history with Vietnam, and then I would do David as present. But I actually went with Michael Knight, not Kit, because I wanted to see like the full, robe and everything, but the leather jacket on top of that.
Yeah. Michael Knight would be sitting in Kit while Kit's scaring the guy, scaring Scrooge to fall into the grave. So
I like it. I like it. All right, one last one. Here we go. So you're going to the Arbuckles for Christmas with John and Garfield and Odie. What side dish are you bringing for dinner?
The only one you can, lasagna.
Nice.
Just taking lasagna because you want to be in Garfield's good graces. So you take lasagna.
All right. I dig it, man. So that's just a little way for our readers. What am I? Magazine. Our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So thanks for that. Now we've talked Newhart twice already.
Yes.
I kind of feel like we've gone over the history of it. It started in 82, went all the way till 90. There were 8 seasons. He's an innkeeper. Larry, Daryl, and Daryl are our favorites.
Yeah.
But for those people that might not have gotten all of that or listened to the past episodes, like, what's the thing that you remember most about Newhart or growing up with Newhart?
Well, if you haven't listened to those episodes, people, please go back and listen to them because Newhart, for some reason, is a hidden gem. And but the thing that I always, and I've said this before, and for those that heard it, I apologize. It's for those that haven't. I just remember laughing myself, and then my dad laughing as hysterically as a kid, and me not always understanding why until I started watching them when I was older, and then being like, "Oh my gosh, this thing is hilarious!" And I just remember we had to watch it as a family, and everybody was cutting up for different reasons, and it was just so good.
And I'm the same way. I remember it was one where we all would come together, and usually the youngest two were, they would sit there, but they would also kind of play. But my mom would just lay out a blanket, and we'd all just kind of all the kids would lie out on the blanket. And my parents would be on the couch, and I mean, it was so fun. And I didn't get all the jokes, but every time Larry, Daryl, and Daryl came on screen, it was hilarious. And so they were my favorites. It was just so much fun and lighthearted and enjoyable. And Bob Newhart, and I know you've said this before, he's got to be like one of the great comedic geniuses because his timing
Yes.
and his delivery is just
Mhm.
impeccable every time.
Yeah. Yeah. In the writing, I'm not sure how integral he was in writing episodes, but I know as a comedian, he wrote for himself, and I've heard that stuff. And you know, I know he wouldn't accept bad writing.
Hmm.
So just the writing of the jokes and the, like you said, the timing and where they're placed, and sometimes these jokes will, you think they're going one way, and then all of a sudden they curve,
Hmm.
and you just don't see the punchline until they get it, and it's like that's genius. you know?
It's crazy how
Yeah.
often that happens, and you're just like,
Yeah.
"What? I never would have thought of that." But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so perfect in so
Yeah.
many ways, and
I, I've said this before on here. This is like a prelude to The Office.
yeah,
It
yeah,
really is. If you enjoy The Office, I never really watched the British version. Apologize, but if you ever watch, Michael Scott in The Office and those guys, you will love Newhart if you haven't checked it out.
yeah, and he's so deadpan. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's amazing. But we're here to talk about season 3, episode 21, The Prodigal Daryl. And it's which just from the title, and because this is episode 21, which means that it aired in May. In fact, I
Uh-huh.
believe it was May 6th of 1985. You don't expect this to be a Christmas episode.
Right.
And so I was completely shocked when I stumbled upon it by accident. I was just going through and watching some other episodes, and all of a
Uh,
sudden they start this whole thing, and we'll get into why it's a Christmas episode in a little bit. But I mean, it just blew my mind. And I thought, again, it's brilliant. Like,
yes.
who does this? They just slide it in. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And this episode is Bob Newhart stuff is timeless. This episode may
mhm,
be more timeless, even though there's some 80s elements in it. Maybe the themes may be more timeless than others.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, of course, it's based on the prodigal son.
Yes.
That's why it's called the Prodigal Daryl. And if you want to nutshell it, the brothers, Larry, Daryl, and Daryl, win a contest, and Daryl, not the other brother Daryl, just the brother Daryl,
Yeah.
he he takes off with his share of the winnings, and then they have to go find him and bring him back.
Yep.
That's like the nutshell version, but there's like a whole Christmas part that is just thrown in there willy-nilly that's ridiculous.
It's like we need something for these other characters to do all episode. And they're like,
Exactly.
Christmas.
Oh man. It's I feel like whoever thought of this was like one of us,
Yes.
like, you're doing a creative writing. Uh I'll be, or I guess when by the time this drops, well, no, it still might be. Anyway, I'll be a guest on Tis the Podcast on their Patreon, and it's all about like horror moments, like your top 10 horror moments. And of course, I had to sneak in a Silent Night, Deadly Night in there because it's
Uh-huh.
Christmas. And I feel like the writer of this particular episode was like, I think I just want to throw some Christmas in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's like someone probably thought, what's the most insane thing they could do? And they're like, Christmas,
that's right.
you
Yeah,
know? Or, well, we talked about it before. They only had like one official
right.
Christmas episode. So maybe they're like, well, this was just season 3. So it's not like they had a whole bunch of time behind them. So maybe they were thinking, we need to do something completely different, and they're like, well, they haven't touched Christmas very much.
I wonder if it was like planned because trying to find information on the actual writing process of these shows sometimes is
Yeah.
very difficult. I wonder if
Yeah.
it was like planned as a Christmas episode and then they decided not to, and then someone brought it back and thought, oh, let's do that Christmas thing though.
That could be very possible. That could
Yeah.
be very possible because I could see how it was one and then was retconned into this pretty easily.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because it starts off with the Christmas thing. So like George comes in and he's fixed their shower,
Uh-huh.
and, and he even makes a joke about testing it out, and you can
Yeah.
see him like getting water out of his ear.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, did it take long? He's like, it didn't take long to install, but it was hard to walk away from the
the
test.
the trial run, yeah.
Yeah, the trial run. So,
And so this is where Joanna wants to take her Christmas card pictures because every year she wants to, they end up getting way too busy and they never do. And
right.
so she wants to get it done early. And this is, I mean, it's like a great idea And every year I always say I'm going to start earlier and earlier doing certain things,
Right.
and I never do, just because time gets away from me. So, I can sympathize with her, but of course it's May, and so it's super hot.
Yes.
And that becomes a runner as well.
Yeah. Well, I get it too, because, this is the early 80s.
Right.
If me and you wanted a picture Christmas card right now, we could do it like literally the week before Christmas and have some.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they have to take the film, get it developed, and take the picture and send it off somewhere to have the cards made. So it probably could be a 4 or 5 month process. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We never did picture Christmas cards.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't know the time frame on that. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely a much more involved process, especially back then.
Yeah.
So and of course, Dick, he's kind of grumpy.
Yeah. He's like, just in the nick of time.
Well, I like his entrance too, because he walks in like with the bike, and Stephanie's there, and she's like, "Thanks for picking me up." And he's like, "Well, maybe next time you go on a bike ride, like plan to come back." And she's like, "But then I'll get all flushed."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I'm what does he say? I'm glad I got you before you did anything foolish."
Yeah.
But he sees Joanna with the camera, and she says she wants to take her Christmas card. And this is where he's like, as long as I don't have to help decorate, I don't want to have to change my clothes. And
I'm not going to smile if I don't want to.
That's right. Yeah. But then she presses, she's like, come on, it'll be fun. I'll put a wreath on some stockings on the mantle, we'll bundle up in our warm clothes. And I love his joke here.
Yeah, and then we'll all fall over from heat prostration.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they decide that's what they're going to do. And this is where we get the Daryl and Daryl entrance. And as they come in, they're like so excited. He's like, "Hey, we got some big news. We won $30,000 in a jingle contest."
Yeah, jingle contest. And they like perform the jingle, and it's horrible.
Yeah. It's like
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Poppity pop, poppy, poppity pop, poppy. Look loud, popcorn pop. Poppity pop, poppy, poppity pop, poppy. Big and firm and hot. Crunchity crunch, crunchy. Crunchity crunch, crunchy. Stuff it down your face. Swallow, 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 swallow. Loud is the best place anywhere, any place.
Yeah, it's for like popcorn or something. They said Brother Daryl is the lyricist, and other Brother Daryl is the music guy, and Daryl and Larry was the one that told him to make it reggae.
Make it reggae, yeah. Well, but then like when you hear it later on, it's not even reggae. It's like just typical 80s jingle.
Well, when you hear it later on, it's pretty good.
It actually, yeah.
Poppity pop, poppy, poppity pop, poppy. Look at live popcorn pop. Poppity pop, poppy, poppity pop, poppy. Big and firm and hot.
Well, because they get professionals when they're playing it. Like I think they're playing on kazoo
or mouth harp,
or one of those. And Larry's singing, and he's not great.
Yeah.
But I like how it was like, "Oh wow, you won with that, huh? How much did you win?" And they tell him $30,000. That's when Dick says,
and they say life isn't fair.
Yeah. It's like $30,000, which would be the equivalent of $92,000.
"Oh my gosh, I got to write some jingles like stat."
Yeah. So basically, $100,000 is what they got,
But I like how they're going back and forth. He's like, "Oh, it's a team effort. I spark Daryl, and Daryl sparks me, and Daryl sparks Daryl, and Daryl sparks Daryl, and then Daryl sparks."
Yeah, he was going through all the pairings,
all the iterations.
Yeah.
It's just such a terrible. So I wrote down the lyrics, or at least as best as I could hear it. It's poppity pop poppy, poppity pop poppy. Look at that popcorn pop. Poppity pop poppy, poppity pop poppy. Big and firm and hot. And then they go into like crunchity crunch crunchy and so on and so on. But it's like the most. It's
Frosty
bad.
the Snowman.
Yeah, it's just bad.
It's Frosty the Snowman. Look at Frosty go.
Look at Frosty go. That's
Yeah.
right.
Thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump.
More Christmas.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, but don't worry, we're still the lovable, down to earth guys.
Yeah.
This money's not going to change us.
Not one iota.
Not one iota. And so they come back because they're having a problem. They can't decide what to do with the money except to buy these hats, or chapeau, as Larry calls it.
This is my favorite scene. I love this scene. They can't decide what to do, except they all bought these like fedoras.
Yeah.
Hats, and Dick was like, well, I can see why that was a unanimous
That's right. Well, it's so funny because Larry, for being such, he looks like such a simpleton and just a someone that doesn't really know much, and yet he has like such an extensive vocabulary. I think he says something like, we've been having a fiscal ruckus over our winnings.
Yeah. And Dick's like, well, why don't you put it in the bank and you can get like 10% interest? And he's like, what? They'll manage our money and give us free money? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I don't trust that.
I don't know if I trust those kind of people.
Yeah. And so Dick was running through all this stuff. He's like, I don't trust that free money, through the banks and through investments, through stocks and all this. He's like, free money, more free money. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, no.
Yeah. Well, then Peter Scolari comes in and he tries to pitch him the idea of like investing in his new, as a producer, his production company. And he's like, yeah, you can earn like 20 or 30%. Like more free money.
Yeah. And then he says my favorite line of the whole episode.
Come on, Daryl. It's a sad day when TV people are no more reliable than a bank.
Here we are, 40 years later, and it still stands true.
Yeah. I just like how it's like free money and bushels of it.
Yeah.
like, come on, guys. So Dick, with the whole time, is just looking like you guys are idiots.
Yeah, just morons.
Yeah. But so then we get George coming in with a beautiful Christmas tree. A real tree. And I like, he says something like, it's better than last year's. And Dick says, well, it's funny how there's a better selection of trees in the spring.
Yeah.
But he comes in and it's just, at first, it's just him and Joanna. And, he's like, well, it's not Christmas without a tree. And she says, well, but it's not really Christmas. And he's like, well, it's starting to look like it.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Stephanie changes her tune because she didn't want to do it.
She didn't want to.
Yeah. She changes her tune, and basically she went through all these reasons why. And then she was like, well, then any chance I could to get presents.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Miss Piggy right there.
Yep, absolutely.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Oh, man. So, they're like, we'll decorate the tree. You don't have to do anything at all. It's going to be fine. And so he's like, fine. But this is where Larry and the other brother, Daryl, come in. So his brother, Daryl's missing.
Yep.
This is where we get like the big reveal that they had a big fight. Because he wanted to go to Kansas City. Because apparently there's some interesting women there.
Yeah, some interesting women. And said that his brother Daryl had left, and a third of the money had left, and they didn't think it was they didn't think it was a coincidence.
So they're all like, well, what are we gonna do? We got to find him, Yeah, and that's when he says, yeah, in one fell swoop, we lost a brother and a lyricist.
Yeah.
I like how the brothers are like listening to the radio and their jingle comes on, which is nice. Like you said, it's an actual nice version of it. And then he just says something like, we're being mocked by our own success.
Yeah. And then Dick comes in with the police officer, and Larry's like, he's like, it's unreal how many people in this world aren't Daryl.
Dick says,
Yeah, you'd be surprised by the statistics.
But so the officer's like, okay, well, what does he look like? And and so they start to describe him like his skunky black hair or something. And I think they even say something like let's just put it this way: when they were in line getting looks, or he was the first one.
He
or
was the
something.
first one. Yeah, they call
That's
him
why
Face.
the face, yeah,
The Face.
which reminded me of like A-Team.
Uh,
and then it really made me want to see Daryl in like Face's position in the A-Team, like trying to like smooth talk everyone but not saying anything.
yeah. Well, apparently he can do it. So
I guess so, yeah. And so they're like, okay, well, he also likes, and they start running down, his list, and it's almost like one of those dating, like those video dating ads.
They're like his Larry was like his turn-ons are, and Dick was like, oh, he don't need to do that. And the officer's like, more I know, the easier be finding him. And he's like, walks in the mud, the letter Y.
But then they also say his turn-offs, which are like soaking dirty pans and what does he say? Something like Bermuda shorts.
Yeah, Bermuda shorts. And the officer was like, well, I know if I meet him, I'll like him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, he's my kind of people.
Yeah.
But you could tell it's hot because the officer had like a big old sweat stain down the middle of his shirt.
Yeah.
Which is important because we cut later on to them decorating the tree and they're all like sweltering in the heat.
Yeah.
I wish we'd brought warm clothes. No, you don't.
But they're, I like how they're decorating the tree, and George says something like, hey, when we're done with this, we should get a picture.
Yeah.
And Joanna's like, well, that was the point, George.
That's the whole point. Oh, yeah.
So their guests come, and I like how they just kind of give Joanna and George like the crazy eye, like,
they're like,
what is going on over there?
Yeah, they're like, at first you're like, oh, they're not liking this, because it's May. I thought maybe they'd leave or something. And of course they come in all like the guy's got his shirt like half unbuttoned and all sweaty and stuff. And before they check in, they're like, can we help decorate?
Well, I like how they're looking at him crazy, and Dick says something like
Season's greetings.
Yeah.
But yeah, she tells him we just want to get a Christmas card picture, and then the wife, is like, well, that's a great idea. Can we borrow your background? And so they like really start getting into it.
Yeah.
And I think he said something like, yeah, you can help as long as you don't mind working up a sweat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where I think Michael comes in with boxes. And he's carrying like a ton of boxes, presents. They're all wrapped. And Joanna's like, you just had to wrap just empty boxes. They didn't have to have presents. And I like how he just kind of looks at her. It's like, yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
I did have to buy presents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Stephanie's like, are those for me? He's like, don't worry. I have more in the car.
I have more in the car. Yes.
Oh, man.
Classy Miss Piggy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're like total like yuppie stereotypes or caricatures. It's so ridiculous there. But
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's getting into the Christmas spirit. And I like how this is where Larry, as they're decorating, Larry comes in. He's like, hi, I'm Larry. I think this is my brother Daryl, and this is my other brother Daryl. And it's like a paper. He's holding up a newspaper, and he's like, what do you think? Is this him? And he's like, well, he's dancing with the first lady. So no, I don't think.
Yeah. He's like, how do you know? Just call it intuition.
Yeah.
They never did say it, but you're led to believe that's Ronald Reagan.
It's Ronald Reagan. Yeah.
You're like, that's actually not too bad of a correlation. They do look similar.
I think like if his hair wasn't like just black and straight down part in the middle, like if it was actually combed like Reagan's, he actually could have looked pretty similar to Reagan.
Yeah, similar enough for a newspaper photo.
But so he's like so depressed, and he even says something like, sorry to be a downer on Christmas card Eve.
Yeah.
Which I want that to be a thing now. Like, let's everybody in May, we just have to take our Christmas card pictures. And
Yeah. That's a good idea. Like May 25th. Take your Christmas card pictures.
Well, that means tomorrow would be Christmas card Eve.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, dang. Well, good talking with you, Jerry.
I know. Yeah. What are we doing? We gotta split, guys. I'm sorry. But the cop comes in while they're all, down, and he's like, I think I have a lead. There was some officers that broke up like a frat party in I don't remember, some town up in
some
and
neighboring town.
yeah. So they're like, I think it might be our guy. So they're like, all right, let's go. And they want Dick to drive them there. And Joanna, of course, wants to take the picture. She's like,
Right.
anxious for that. And she's like, well, just borrow our car. Dick's like, no, I'll drive.
Yeah, I'll drive.
So they go up there, and there's like some frat guys, and one of them, I don't know if you noticed, was
Yes, I
Uncle
did.
Joey himself.
Yeah, I did. I rewound it the first time I watched it. I was like, is that Joey?
Yeah,
And
yes,
I was like,
it's Dave
yes,
Coulier.
definitely Joey.
And I wanted him to do like something Joey-ish,
Cut it out. Get out of here.
but you know, I guess
He was very young.
he was. He looked
Yeah.
super young, yeah.
Mhm.
And so they discover it is Daryl's place.
Mhm.
And I like how he comes at, they say they're looking for Daryl, and Larry's just mad, and he like threatens to like smash their faces together or
Yeah.
something. So they take off, and I like how Daryl comes in, and he's wearing like a velour like tracksuit
Right. Right.
with his blue suede shoes.
Yeah. Larry was like, "Are those your high-heeled tennis shoes?" And he shakes his head no. And Dick goes, "Those are blue suede shoes." And he shakes his head yes.
Yeah.
And then other brother Daryl gives brother Daryl a hug. And then Larry goes up and gives brother Daryl a hug and then wrestles him to the ground.
And wrestles him. Yeah. He's like just so and the whole time of course he's still using his like highfalutin vocabulary. He's like,
Yeah.
look at this wanton waste, and all sorts of things like that. He's just really going after Daryl, who I think he had headphones on, right? Or he came in with he was playing
it's like a
something.
little keyboard, like
That's
a
what it
little
was, a keyboard.
Casio keyboard kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like trying to talk him into it, like you can't really like this lifestyle. And then like some woman comes out of his room.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like dressed all in white. And she's like, "See your face." And,
That's right. And so he's like, yeah, I kind of like this lifestyle.
yeah. Dick was like, "There's nothing I can say to him."
It's he's basically like, your brothers really want you to come back, but
Yeah.
like, that's about it. And I think, he talks about this den of decadence, and like,
Yeah.
he's on the road to perdition and all sorts
Yeah.
of all sorts of stuff like that. But
Yeah.
he's like, remember your favorite movie, It's a Wonderful Life?
It's a wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
What does he say? Something like,
Only brother, something about money, but only brothers matter. And then he goes, or was that Bonanza?
yeah. Anyway, and so finally he's like, so are you coming or not? And he shakes his head. So they leave.
Yeah.
But they get back to their room, or to the inn, I should say,
Uh-huh.
and they're decorating the tree. And it looks pretty nice, I gotta say.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
does
see
look
any
good.
lights on it, but just the ornaments were really awesome.
Yeah.
And they're singing carols. I think they're singing Deck the Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And they start, they want to take pictures because they're like burning up.
Yeah.
And the wife's like, oh, I wish we had brought some winter clothes. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
But Stephanie is like super, like, she just cannot wait to dig into these presents. Like, can we open them now? It's like, no, not until we take the picture. And
Uh-huh.
we can't do that till Dick gets back. And Michael tries to like cheer her up. He's like, well,
Cupcake, would the mistletoe take your mind off the present?
and she just
Yeah.
says,
No.
Yeah. No.
no. So they start singing another song. They start singing Jingle Bells.
Jingle bells.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells.
The guys come in and they're like, well, I guess we just got to go on with Adam. Have you started singing Auld Lang Syne yet? So they start singing Auld Lang Syne, and
Yeah.
this is where Daryl comes back, and he's like, it's a miracle. Daryl
Yeah.
came home for Christmas.
Yeah.
Everybody's acting as if it's actually Christmas. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where the couple, the renters, are like, who are these people?
Yes.
And it's like, oh, let me introduce myself. And
Yeah.
we finally get the full, I'm Larry, this is my
Yeah.
brother Daryl, this
Daryl.
is my other brother Daryl.
Uh-huh.
And it's like
Yeah.
a huge applause from the studio audience.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, hey, you want to join us? And they, everybody takes their picture, and that was good. But I like the ending.
The closing was wonderful because Larry goes, Daryl, I hope it was worth it. And the whole time Daryl kind of had his face down. And as soon as Larry asked him that, and right before they snapped the picture, he looked up and looked straight in the camera and got this biggest grin on his face you've ever seen.
Woo! Oh, Daryl.
And then that's when they snapped the picture, and then they showed the photo of him just with that big old grin on his face.
Well, what do they? I think they even say he spent like $5,000 in 3 days, something like that.
Yeah. He spent half his money.
Half his money, yeah. Oh my gosh. But I mean, that's the story of the prodigal son, the biblical story, where the son wants his half of the inheritance, and he takes it and squanders it away in a hedonistic lifestyle, and then he decides to return to his dad and beg forgiveness. But of course, his dad is just thrilled that he's back, and so he treats him no different as he did before. And so, I mean, it's just, it really is its namesake, but I just love how they crammed Christmas into it, because the way they did it was ridiculous, but it works.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And, them mentioning It's a Wonderful Life, it's like, all right, I need to go back and watch it with that mindset to see what other wonderful life ties there are. Of course, them being around the Christmas tree singing Old Lang Syne is, how It's a Wonderful Life ended up, and actually, and George's brother came home at the end of that too from the war.
So it's like a perfect tie-in. It really is.
Yeah. So just like Brother Daryl came in, and everybody was happy to see him, even though it wasn't, from war as a war hero, and, there's some differences, but there is some overlap as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like I said earlier, this one I need to watch a few more times with different mindsets to see what Easter eggs and similarities I could pull, because I think just my gut just tells me there's some more.
Yeah. Well, like when we did that first one, No Room at the Inn, there was a ton of like all those all over the place. And of course there were the big ones like, the Wiseman, the Wiseman brothers, and Mary and Joseph, or Joe, Mary and Joe, all that. But yeah, it's Newhart. I love it because the writing is just so subtle. There's like all these little things, and if you're not paying like close attention, you miss certain things. And so it's the same with this one. I thought this episode was really well done. It was perfect. I mean, honestly, it was almost a perfect episode. I really laughed throughout most of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't find anything wrong with it, if I, really at all.
No, I laughed through it. It was all the episodes of Newhart that the 3 we've done have been really good. This one felt the most tight. Like, it was boom, 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 and nothing was wasted. The story made sense. The characters' reaction, not that they didn't in the others, but just everything fit together so well.
Right.
The episodes without commercials are only like 22 minutes, and it felt way shorter than that.
Shorter. Oh yeah, I completely agree. And I think, usually by season 3, the people have kind of found their characters' voices, and they're more locked into everything, to each other. And yeah, it really did just kind of fly by. And I like I said, I thought it was really well done. So
it was. This is definitely going to enter my Christmas canon.
Which is so funny, because it's it's not really a Christmas episode, but it's totally a Christmas episode. So,
well, I mean, it passes the bar for my Christmas episode.
Passes the bar for mine too. So.
and I'm about ready to declare Newhart a whole TV show on Christmas.
I'm sure there's more. I bet somewhere, if I dig through, because this one completely surprised me.
Right.
You look up, even when you're like searching on the internet, just Newhart Christmas. I mean, it doesn't show up, No. And so you got to like dig through it more, because even on IMDb, the description of it is just that the brothers win. Like, it's all about the brothers. It's nothing about the subplot. And so I kind of wonder if there's more in the later episodes, because there was 8 seasons of it. So there's still 5 seasons left.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to watch them.
I think we will.
And remember, if Newhart ends up streaming, please tune into the Daryl and Daryl podcast, where your host Jerry and Todd will talk about every episode in order.
I love it. Can I be the other brother, Daryl?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You could be the face.
Yeah.
This is why I do a podcast, because I don't have to show my face anymore.
Oh.
But it does make me wonder, and I know we've kind of sped through this, but it was a tight episode. It was so fun, and we've kind of covered a lot of the incidentals in other episodes. So it does make me wonder, though, what would you say would be your happiest memory or moment with Newhart? Or, we've done that before. Let's do with this episode. What do you think your favorite moment of this episode is?
Oh, my favorite moment was them in Dick's office talking about money and free money, because it was just so fast, and the jokes were so fast. They did make, a political, economical statement without like being preachy or bumping you over the head.
Right.
And it was hilarious. And like I said, how quick that Larry and Dick have to be to get those exchanges out. And how Daryl and Daryl don't talk, but they do so much. Which we've talked about before, how those guys are actually Shakespearean actors, because they needed actors who could act without speaking.
The brother Daryl really does in this episode, because it's focused on him and his his turn and
right,
just his whole journey.
Well, when they go to talk to him, he doesn't say a word, but you understand exactly what he's getting at.
Yes.
And but that scene in the office where they're just talking about the money and things, it was just so fast, but so easy to follow. And it's like, I was laughing, and it's like, I can't laugh too loud, I'm gonna miss the next joke.
It's true. Yeah, it really is true. You have to be careful with it, otherwise you're gonna miss what's next.
That's why you got to watch them multiple times. Yeah.
Yep. And now for me, I think, of course, my favorite part was them decorating the tree and singing Christmas carols, because it just put me in the spirit.
Yeah.
But my favorite bit was the brother Daryl coming out in that tracksuit. I mean, it's just, you usually just see him in like this real baggy, kind of loose fitting.
Yeah. And he was dancing, like legit dancing too.
He was. Yeah.
That's
why it's like, I could just picture like Run DMC, a beat behind him or something. Christmas in Hollis.
Yeah.
Actually, that makes me think of another question. If you could actually be in this episode, like be one of the characters, who would you like to be?
That's tough. I mean, Daryl did spend $5,000 in 2 days. That would be a lot of fun. I'd go with Daryl just to see what that's like.
I feel like I'd probably be the cop. I think,
the cop was funny.
And he's just like, it does get lonely this time of year.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, come on and decorate the tree with us and spend this time with us. Would you like some lemonade? And he's like, no eggnog.
No eggnog. It's just not Christmas without eggnog.
Yeah. Everybody is like so quick to believe it's Christmas. It's
that's how it is in the real world.
Yeah.
Me and you live Christmas year round.
Right.
And so when we meet someone in May, June, or July, and we talk about Christmas, their first reaction is kind of like those people that walked into they're like, eh?
Yeah.
And it's about 5 minutes later of talking to them, they're all eyeball deep and telling you how much they love Christmas, and they're ready to go. And that's what was portrayed in this episode. It's like, yeah, it may not be Christmas time, but it doesn't take much to get people in the Christmas spirit at all.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's kind of what happens at our store, because we open up in July, and of course, Christmas in July, but most people, it's like 107 degrees down here in Texas during that time. And they walk in, and you can see a lot of the husbands especially are just like, oh, why am I here? Yeah. And as you start like just chatting with them and, saying, have you seen our bulbs? Like, just check these out, and you just see the excitement, and they start to like get more into it. It's kind of a cool thing. Yeah. And so you're right, to see that realistically portrayed was nice, because usually there's either just a real Scrooge person, that you'll see, and the one that's really into it, but you don't see just the casual everyday kind of folks that are like, okay, that's weird. Let me just do my thing.
Yeah.
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 But now we come to my favorite part of the show, which is a little segment I like to call Gag Me with the Spoon. So this is where we do our best impression of our least favorite part of the episode. And as a guest, I'll let you go first. Just kind of set up the scene for us.
Alrighty. This is probably going to be my toughest impersonation.
All right.
But the scene is they are decorating the tree.
Okay.
Michael brings in his gifts to put under the tree. And Joanna says, "You didn't have to get real gifts. You could have, wrapped empty boxes." And he goes, "Yes, I did." And then Stephanie goes, "Joanna, people would be able to tell if they were empty boxes."
That's good, Stephanie. And that's oh man, she's so selfish and yeah. Oh my goodness. But I'm actually also going to do Stephanie. And I think yours is going to be better than mine. This is where she's just kind of starting to get on board with the idea and of doing Christmas cards. And I just didn't like her delivery here to where she's like, a person can change. A person can get caught up in the spirit of things. A person can notice a chance to get presents. Like, of course. Yeah. But, Stephanie.
Yeah. What can you do?
That's
it's
right.
funny that both of us were like, yeah, the gift part.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
It's not what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
No.
But it is for Stephanie. But on that note, it does, I got to ask that, G.I. Joe taught us that knowing is half the battle. What do you think the other half is?
Knowing the difference between high-heeled tennis shoes and blue suede shoes.
Nice. That's way better than mine. I just thought if knowing's half the battle, the other half is getting an early start on Christmas card picks. Never too early.
No, it's never too early.
But, Todd, it's been so much fun. It's always a blast talking about Newhart with you. I look forward to our upcoming show and our upcoming new venture. Yeah. But, tell me about Christmas Clatter. Anything else you got coming up? Like what do you want to plug?
Let me plug something non-Christmas real quick if I can, Jerry.
Yeah, anything you want.
I have a second podcast out I do with Ken Smith. You guys might know him from Faces to Places and the North Pole News Dispatch. And we get together every week and we just talk. No subject in particular. We just start talking and we record it. It's called On the Porch. And it's basically, you sit on the porch with your friend and you just talk. Nothing serious, nothing, just a conversation. So that's a podcast out there for everybody to enjoy if you're interested. But going back to Christmas Clatter, we are starting our next season, Christmas in July. I used to run Christmas Clatter year round, and I had to change that for my sake, just so I can, do it the way I want to without putting too much pressure on myself. I'm a kind of guy that takes everything to 11, and I had to realize that that's not good for me. So Christmas in July, we will kick off a new season of Christmas Clatter, and we will run every other week until October, and then we'll be weekly through Christmas. Be a podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll be live streaming those episodes on YouTube as I record them. Be Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. ChristmasClatter.com will get you to all the social medias. I'm kind of quiet there now, but I'll warm it up starting in July, and you guys hop on. And if you join us on the live stream in the chat, when I have guests and anything else, once the episode's over, we have a little special alone time with whoever's with us, just as a thank you for joining.
It's all PG, I promise.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And,
so if I have a guest on and you want to ask them a question, that's a good time to hop on and ask them, after the recording and things. So,
and I know I was supposed to come on a couple of times, then just schedules got crazy. So I'm hoping we can make it work this time, because it's always a pleasure talking with you.
Yes.
And your live shows are fun. And
I need you to come on this year. I'm gonna break this right here on Totally Rad Christmas. We got a theme for Christmas Clatter. First time I ever did it for this season of Christmas Clatter. I mentioned something about it last year, and I'm doing it. I'm putting together a playlist for everybody to listen. The 101 essential Christmas songs. It's not a ranking like the best to worst. It's not a ranking. It's a list of songs that are essential to Christmas. They don't have to even be good songs. A lot of them will be, but they have to be essential to Christmas. So that's kind of the caveat. And that theme will be running from the first episode. I'll stop it before Thanksgiving because I need to have the playlist out for the big hot and heavy Christmas season.
Right.
So,
right.
but that theme will run us through most of the year. So,
Right on, man. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for that. And yes, I would love to talk a couple of songs that are essential because
yeah,
I have a lot to say about Christmas music. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I am up to like 120 songs. So the number of 101 may be changing because it is getting hard. and the way I'm doing it is there will be 101 different songs, but a particular song may have a couple different artists' rendition of that song.
Mm-hmm.
So that won't just be 100. Like the example I always give is White Christmas. You need the Bing Crosby version. You also need the Drifters version.
Mm-hmm.
So there's several songs like that have Winter Wonderland. You have the Eurythmics, and then you might want Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin or something, along those lines. Baby Come Home for Christmas. You have to have Darlene Love. You have to have U2.
Mm-hmm.
So those kind of things will be in there. So, the playlist will end up being probably close to 200 songs somewhere, but so we'll see how it's working out. I have a spreadsheet and everything. I've been working on it for past couple months. I got notes. I got some songs I got in my notes that I don't think are on the list. Sometimes I think I didn't put that song on the list. I'll go back to it. Oh yeah, I did. So
right on.
Yeah. So
cool. Well, I can't wait. I love Christmas music, so I can't wait to add that playlist and just kind of jam out.
Yeah. The question I need to ask is, do I need to add movie scores?
Oh, that's tough. So on my phone, this is just a playlist for me. I have almost every single widely distributed Christmas music from the 80s. Like it's just, I call it my 80s Christmas blast. And it's just this ridiculously long playlist of only 80s Christmas music. It's not even like, usually here I go from 77 to 93. It's none of that. It's literally just from 1980 to 1989. And I was thinking about doing that, but what I ended up doing on mine was including just songs from Christmas movies. So
I think that's the route I'm going because I have a couple already.
Right. So like Santa Claus the movie, instead of Henry Mancini's score, I did, It's Christmas All Over the World and some of the other ones that the Ambrosian children's singers sing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean there's that. You definitely, I think somewhere in my memory probably should be on there for sure. But you never know. Yeah.
Yeah. So well, thanks for the little mini episode at the end of this Newhart.
I know, right? Oh, man. Well, on that note, then I'll say thanks again, Todd.
Thank you.
And I'll end it with Joanna, it wouldn't be Christmas without a tree. It's not Christmas. Sure beginning to look a lot like it. So check us out on our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram at Totally Rad Christmas, Twitter at Rad Christmas, or our Facebook group, Totally Rad Christmas Mall and Arcade, where you can make your voice known to us as well. We post anything and everything 80s or Christmas related. And if you're feeling like Daryl spending $5,000 in 3 days, leave us a review on iTunes. It helps us reach more people and spread some rad holiday cheer. Now, don't forget to check out our merch shop on tpublic.com and our super dope website, totallyradchristmas.com, courtesy of Tis the Podcast Elf, Tom Crow. Well, I better get back to HQ. Merry Christmas to you. Later, dudes.
Would old acquaintance be forgot and ever brought to